Okay. All right. We are recording. Welcome back for day 2. Let's jump straight in with the screen share so that we don't waste any more time. I hope day 1 has went well for you. I hope you enjoyed that, talking about the mind, talking about your body, all that kind of thing, all the good stuff. And now we're going to be jumping in to, this is such a fun segment, this talking about the body and getting into our body, because so much of us are disconnected from our body, which is then disconnecting us from a lot of our emotions. So this is why the body is so important to focus on. So day 2, here we go. First off, you might have remembered me mentioning it in day 1, but during this course, and particularly this segment, there will be things that trigger you, maybe offend, or make you feel uncomfortable. And some coaches do this intentionally. Basically, it'll help bring up things in such a way to trigger clients, because triggering is where the healing needs to happen. But it's just not my style. Basically, as we go through and you learn different things and you hear different concepts and you're encouraged to try different things, you're naturally going to be triggered. So you don't really need to try too hard to trigger people, because it's going to happen anyway. I mean, you see everyday life, people get triggered, and then it's a matter of learning how to work through them. So offense, triggers, etc., whatever you want to call it, resistance, they're all a spotlight on where you need further healing. Offense is a choice, yes, where you can choose to be offended or to let something go. Because basically, whenever someone says something, and this isn't you, but whenever someone says something, it's more to do about them and where they're at than it ever does to do with you. So open-minded, listening, and contemplation, that's also a choice. So if you do find offense, I would encourage you to sit with it. The open-minded are the ones who move through change. They're the ones who are safe enough, feel safe enough in themselves to consider something that they don't want to be real or true, or where your healing is or where your medicine is, but they are dedicated to the process of healing. So therefore they decide to consider it as a possibility. The closed-minded are the ones that change is usually forced upon them. Change will happen anyway. Like, that's one constant in life that you can be reassured. Things will change, and we will have the same experiences until we learn from them what we need to grow ourselves. And remember, this is like a buffet. You can take what you like, you can leave what you like. You're allowed to taste test, try it on. How do you know how something is going to feel unless you actually try it? So if you find yourself feeling offended, triggered, uncomfortable, resistance, just take a note of it and come back to it. It's a spotlight on something that needs to be healed. Everyone will have different beliefs, but this isn't a place to make someone right or someone wrong. So easy to just black and white. The duality of our culture has been really detrimental to our psyche. So basically, we are a culmination of our environment, our perspectives, and our eternal essence. What you are needing is exactly where you are feeling uncomfortable, what you do not want to do. Therein lies your medicine, my darling human. Unfortunately, this isn't all just precious meditation to help you get better. This is considering things that you are extremely uncomfortable with for the sake of growth and for the sake of self-love. Choose to reserve your offense until after the video or after the course. You can take it or leave it, but consider. Feel safe enough inside of your beliefs, your whatever is working for you. If you want to keep that, sweet. If not, consider an alternative, even if it's not comfortable. You can listen to it and choose what you are willing to integrate. It doesn't have to be all of it. It could be none of it. But the simple fact of just holding space for something to be a possibility, even though you don't want it to be a possibility, that there is some pretty significant shadow work. And it's something that most people aren't willing to do. Okay, how do we take the weight off our emotions? Because our emotions feel so real, so heavy, and it's just like when we wrote our stories yesterday or the other day, and you wrote out, you know, sometimes like you can tell the story of your life and just hear so much weight and so much emotion in it, and then you can tell it and then almost tell it as though it's someone else's story. And when you can start to tell it when it sounds like someone else's story, when you don't have that weight of emotion in it, you know that you've reached a place of healing or another layer of healing. I shouldn't even say that things are fully healed, because at different times, a different layer might be triggered. So think of your emotions as screaming toddlers throwing an epic temper tantrum. So you don't want to just give in to them and indulge them. Otherwise, they'll never leave you alone. They'll never evolve. They won't grow. They'll end up being spoiled and expecting that you're just going to pay attention to them whenever they pop up. However, this is our ego. And we can hold space for it later after spending some time with yourself. So the way that you hold space for it, I mentioned it in the first video, but when we hold space for ourselves, ego or emotions and all of those different little panic attacks, anxieties, whatever you want to call them, they show up in different ways. It's a different part of yourself. But today we're going to be talking about our bodies and how to process a lot of that emotion through our bodies. So observe. Let's just observe. Don't take these emotions to be the be all and end all and make it mean other things like, oh, I'm feeling this way. That must mean that that person is an abuser or that person is a persecutor or whatever you want to call it. Just observe. Take a note of where that emotion is. And if you don't have the space right now to process that, come back to it later. What is ignored now will not be ignored forever. Sometimes we get into the trap of, okay, I'm feeling this emotion. I'm not gonna feel it. It's so uncomfortable. I'm gonna push it down and hide it. It will not be hidden forever. Think of the screaming toddler. Don't judge yourself or others. Just observe, just look, just acknowledge it. Observe where your thoughts are naturally led. When you start to observe your thoughts and where you can catch out your unconscious mind and you have the opportunity to change. When you start to be conscious of a lot of these unconscious programs that you have going, you start to create a possibility of change for yourself. When you are coming back to it, when you have that time to hold space for these emotions, to observe them, allow the thoughts and feelings to flood through you. Don't hold them back, and be really, and just observe them. So you don't want to, let's just say you have the emotion of anger or frustration or like a deep sadness. Let's just say that you feel sadness. Be really conscious about what your language is when you are sitting in observation around sadness. If your language is around, oh my goodness, I'm so sad, isn't this awful? What you're doing is you are making it a lot heavier than it has to be. When we observe, we are, okay, I am so sad right now. I know this doesn't last forever, and I'm going to hold space for this right now. It doesn't have to mean anything. You allow it to be what it is, instead of trying to make it something else more severe, more dramatic. There's no one around. This is not for anyone else but you. So I'm tying my hair up because sometimes especially like when I'm getting into some deep topics, I just want things out of the way, focus. So when you are coming back to it, focus on what your language is. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame others. Don't judge. You are observing. This is a feeling for you and only you. This is not about anyone else. This isn't to create a story for the future either. This is to observe it now so that you can move through it. An emotion will not stay there if you hold space for it. It'll be there until it is observed and processed, and then it'll move on. All right. So you can journal about it. If you have any insights, journal them down and decide whether you want to continue or if you'd like to change it. You can keep it if you want. If you want to stay stuck in the story, you have that choice. But if it's not going to serve you a long time, you're welcome to change it. Or even just allow space. Sometimes just the allowing naturally evolves that feeling anyway. Okay. Let's get physical into our bodies. Now, I'm not here to talk about what beauty is or how to become more beautiful, even though, as a paradox, you are never more beautiful as when you are totally adoring the skin you're in. I'm here to show you how to embrace the body your mama gave you. Did that create any resistance in you? The fact that we're going to be talking about bodies and our image, our self-image, the idea of loving your body? Is there any resistance that's now come up because of that? Your body is the exact one you need to fulfill your purpose on this earth right now. How you care for it and treat it and speak to it is up to you. Body image is such a loaded topic, but it doesn't have to be. This can be fun. Imagine if this was fun. Imagine instead of resistance, we felt like an excitement, like we're about to play a game. We've done so much of this head stuff yesterday, a little bit just now. It's time to play and get into our bodies. Who agrees? Check out these different women. Have a look at them. Look at their faces. Look at their legs. Look at their stomachs, their arms, their hair, their eyes. They are all so different. Which one of them is beautiful? Is there room for all of them to be beautiful? Can you see yourself in there with them and regard yourself as beautiful? Our beauty is in our variety and our diversity. It's incredible what we can bring to the table. If you only were able to look at one thing, one color, one texture, life would get so boring. And imagine all the different perspectives that are now here because of all those individuals as well. It just makes our life so much richer. Here's another cute little one. Oh my goodness, I love this one. Celebrate the skin you're in. I'm too small. If only I was that small. Ladies, why do we do this to our precious selves? As though we're not enough as we are. We are worthy of love and adoration exactly as we are. How often do we turn to another woman and say, oh my goodness, you look so good. I wish I had your hair, your eyes, your lips, your butt, your legs, your stomach. How often do we do that? Comparison is a huge, insecurity is infectious. Don't bring yourself down to build someone up. All that does is make them feel insecure, and it makes them want to put themselves down and lift you up. It's a freaking vicious cycle. Let's stop doing it, women. Seriously. We can understand where this comparison comes from. So it's coming from a biological point of view. We compare so that we are chosen, so that we are kind of fitting into the tribe. We want to be chosen because in the past, that meant that a man would be able to choose us, we'd be able to have his children and be looked after for the rest of our lives. Things have changed now. We aren't animals anymore. We have a mind that we can program. So if you are choosing yourself, you don't need to wait around to be chosen, right? Embodiment. So getting out of our heads and pulling that quality into our bodies. Embodiment is how you are showing up, how you are being. It's moved through intention into the subconscious. So think about your ideal self, the one that is loving themselves 100%. She embodies self-love. It's not something that she thinks about consciously. She's not like, oh, how do I love myself right now? Okay, well, maybe I need to do this, and that's gonna be loving myself. She's just like, no, she just freaking loves herself, right? She doesn't think about it. She just is self-love. It's not the becoming. Embodiment is the being. It's not even the doing. It's just, it is the isness. It's embedded, it's practiced, it's in motion and actualized. There is nothing about embodiment that has anything to do with perfection. Embodiment is the being. We live such a sedentary life, more than ever in history of humanity. We don't move our bodies as much as we should. We're sterile, like we disinfect everything. There's so much of this culture of perfection, and it has disconnected us from feeling our bodies. It's making us numb to the sensations that our bodies give us. And then our bodies get pushed to the point where we don't listen to them until there's pain. We've been taught that we are only valued according to how others view us, our village. And we put their needs above our own. And then we're labeled selfless, and that's celebrated. This disconnects us from fulfilling our own needs, showing up for our own selves. So to embody something, you've probably heard it, it is the being, not the becoming. Dink. Your body does more for you than any other being, and yet you treat it worse than any other being. Consider from the time of conception, this physical casing has been working, no breaks, to be the vessel through which your soul can experience human existence. That exact series of events, like what had to transpire to bring about the you that exists in your current form? Your body is constantly working to heal itself. She might struggle at times, and that is usually because she's trying to show you how you're mistreating her. She sometimes responds really quickly to improve treatment, like healthy eating, exercise, kind words, acceptance. But over time, she responds a little slower. But every time we make a choice to fuel her, feel her, love her, she breathes a sigh of relief and loves the care she's been given. She hears you. Every thought, every resentful insult spat at her while you're looking at her reflection. She hears all of it. But she is still so forgiving and never stops. She's your most loyal friend. She will instinctively try and protect you from danger. She recoils from heat or pain. She'll flinch, she'll jump, she'll run, all to keep you safe. And all without you consciously even knowing it. So it's time to be grateful for her, right? Now, this is a ritual that I do a few times a week, which really helps me to connect in with my body and to just treat her in a really special way. So before we start into this ritual, I wanted to just note that self-love and self-care are two very separate things. Self-care is like the physical maintenance of the body. And this isn't just all bubble baths and like meditations and kumbaya frickin' ya. Self-love is anything to do with like for ourselves to flourish. It's the healing, it's the holding space for. It isn't always pretty. It isn't always comfortable or enjoyable. And while this ritual does count as self-care because you are maintaining your physical body, we also bring our consciousness to it, and that helps it become a practice of love as well. Yes, self-care is self-love, but it's on a different level. We're going to be working as well through this. So first of all, before you get started, make sure you do this at a time when you can take your time. Your body doesn't ask much for you. And the attention, it usually screams for attention when something is really wrong and it forces your attention there. Loving your body might feel like a massive feat, especially if you've grown up feeling so insecure in it. And that creates a lot of resistance. And just remember when we're going through this, when you shoot for the highest expectation, like on the level of consciousness, it's hard to know how to get from here to there, like up to that place of acceptance. Just start with observing and work towards acceptance. Just observe the resistance without trying to change it. Just try and work through it. All right, run a bath, or while you're in the shower, use a loofah or a brush or a scrub and intentionally exfoliate every inch of your body. Observe the physical motion. Look at the skin. This is a physical meditation. How does each stroke feel? What sensations are arising? Look at each part of your skin and just observe it. You might find things that you didn't notice before. And as you're observing it, you can play in the idea of just sending love to that part. But if that creates resistance, just observe. Come back to a place of observing the negativity. If any negativity pops up, come back to observing. It may feel overwhelming for your senses because we try and numb so much of what we feel that we actually numb physical feeling too. And if it does start to feel like sensory, quite overwhelming, just breathe, come right into your breath, pull it all the way down your center into your stomach, and then release it fully. You really want to try and comfort your body while you're doing this. Like, just think, if you've been treated really, really badly by someone and then all of a sudden they do this huge outpouring of love towards you, you kind of are a little bit taken back by that. So just be really calming and reassuring to your body if you feel really overstimulated, oversensitized to it. So once you've finished cleaning your body and before you grab your towel, just observe your naked body, dripping wet. The curve, the frame, the folds, the wrinkles. Just observe. She's a masterpiece. There's no one else that looks like you. Once you've finished, oh, I've said that. Just observe. Notice the way you reach for your towel, how your arm moves across, reaches. Do it with real intention. Notice how she moves. Exfoliation is very sensory. As it's sloughing off old skin, it's letting go of the old. This is a purge as well. It's an external purge, but it's still a purge of the old to make way for the new. So it's a great way to get back into your body. It's a great way to treat your body, giving yourself this time as a ritual of gratitude and honoring your body for everything that it does. So I do this 2 to 3 times a week. Do not rush the ritual. Pat her down with your towel. Don't rush any process. Have beautiful music, like beautiful candles, like really make this a ritual. Appreciate every sensation. Once dry, use coconut oil or moisturizer. I use a really nice, luxurious moisturizer that smells amazing, and apply it to your whole body really slowly. Take your time. Observe the sensations your body is feeding back to you. Observe the shape, the texture. Don't judge. The moment you have a negative thought come in, breathe, let go, and just observe. Don't allow your mind to interject. If feeling love is hard, choose to go back to plain observing, to just observing. There's still so much power in that. Really be conscious during this process. You don't want to allow yourself to play with sending love to every inch of your body if it's really, really hard. So just try it. Just play with it. If you want to avoid resistance, then it is important to avoid resistance. Oh my goodness. Feeling dyslexic today. Reading things backwards. It's important to avoid resistance than it is to force love. Remember, the letting go of the old naturally creates space for the new. So play with the feeling of love. And if you notice your negative thoughts bubbling up, ask your ego, as you would a child, to allow you this time to observe and care for your physical body, your physical self, without judgment. And then you can come back to the ego later. You're welcome to hold space for it later with your journal and an epic set of questions from the workbook. But now is a time for you to hold space for your body. Does this sound like it is overtly sexual? Not all touch has to be sexual, but are you terrified that I'm about to talk about sexuality? Really check in with yourself. Observe your feelings and see if there is something there for you to learn. Is there any resistance? As women, we've been conditioned to be a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets. And that sexuality is something that is wrong until you hit a certain age, and then it's something to be ashamed of. It's here that I want to mention the wound of the feminine. The ultimate wound of the feminine is shame. Shame isolates and disconnects. Bear that in mind when entertaining into this space. When we recoil or think of a natural process of life with any shame, you are needing this medicine. It's important to address it and see if there is healing there. I can tell you there's healing there. If there is a natural process to life that we are feeling shame around, you need healing there. We need healing there. When we know where these wounds show up, we can be more conscious to the resistance that bubbles up. Even the consciousness of the resistance helps to release it. We also have an opportunity to stay in the wound if you want to, or You can make an intention to move through it to healing. To think that some parts of our bodies are off limits to us, their keepers, and who they actually belong to, and that to somehow think that the only access to them should be to our partners, for our partners to access them, makes you wonder, doesn't it? And so I'm here to talk about self-pleasure, because there is no shame in self-pleasure. I want to just ease your mind. I'm not going to be showing you images or giving you directions or techniques or anything like that, even though it is something I would totally rock at. And I actually love the topic of sex and sexuality and pleasure. But my intention here is to lower the stigma around self-pleasure. And my God, if you need to have someone give you permission, I'll give you permission. This is such a loaded topic for so many people, and for some, it's not anything new. So I want to plant a few seeds for you. We are given our bodies for our time on earth. It has some pretty incredible powers. We can create life inside our bodies. We can feed life from our bodies. And the creations and sensations that come with that are decadent and divine. To assume that we not know how to create those sensations for ourselves, or that it's wrong to, and that another human should know how to, like, here's my body, I have no idea how to make it orgasm, but I really want you to do it for me, now go. But I won't be too selfish and ask for it too often. Isn't it interesting how a woman does not need to orgasm to fall pregnant and have a child, and yet the clitoris is an organ that is there for pleasure? Now, if God or our creator or whatever you want to say, he did not want us to, or she didn't want us to have or experience pleasure, why do we have that fun bean right there? Food for thought. There's a book called Love, Sex and No Regrets by Elizabeth Clark, which is an incredible book for teens and adults, but it's about learning healthy sexuality, which I think is incredible. I read it. It helped me too. So I would suggest checking that out. I highly, highly recommend it. Children from a young age explore their bodies in a very innocent way. It's usually adults, culture, religion that has taken away that innocence, that self-exploration of our very own territory. This is our territory. And they've made it impure. Our vagina, our nipples, anus, breasts, butts are no less pure than our fingers, our toes, our hair, our knees, our hands, our elbows, lips, tongues, eyes. You get the idea. The ritual of gratitude for your body does not need to lead to self-pleasure, but I would suggest that it's a natural progression. As you start to appreciate and move through the different sensations of your body, take note of where you want to explore and just go with that. Just observe it without judging it. There is no need to set an outcome. In fact, that's where observing comes in. No outcome. You do not need to orgasm every time you self-pleasure. That sets up this expectation and starts to put some weight on it, right? No, self-pleasure is doing it your way, the way you like it. You need to figure that out for yourself, how that is, because I mean, porn and a lot of TV shows and all the rest of it, they paint a picture of how it should look when it doesn't always look like that. You need to figure out for yourself how that looks and feels for you. So just observe. play with sending love to your body, and just acknowledge and enjoy the sensations. This is good homework, guys. Come on, you're so welcome. I really hope you enjoy all of this. Your body isn't bad. Take time. There's no rush. That's why I want you to have a decent amount of time to do the ritual of gratitude for her, and then move through that to where the natural progression goes, if it goes there. It may feel really awkward at the start, just like when you're with someone new, a new lover's body. Just listen to her and see how she responds. Slow when she feels like slow, hard, soft, gentle, paused, faster, all of it. Just do what feels right. There's a website if you're interested in learning different techniques. The website's called omgyes.com, and that'll show you different techniques for self-pleasuring specifically. Once you move through all the outer stuff and once you come to the clitoris and the labia and all of that sort of thing, it can teach you those techniques. But I promise you that I wouldn't be. So start with your hands. When you're moving through to self-pleasure, and then once you've actually played with your hands and you kind of know what you want, you can move then through to crystal wands, dildos, and that kind of thing, different things to explore. I also suggest using a yoni egg at different times, to explore the different muscles of your vagina and pelvic area. Like I have some rose quartz ones, and they're different sizes and they're really good. I've also got a book that kind of helps you to isolate which muscles and that sort of thing, which all actually go into just that pleasure. And it's here too, while we're on the topic of our bodies being bad, that I want to just address periods. They have been so taboo and seen as dirty and shameful for so long, and we're just now starting to come out of that, where they're becoming less demonized and a little bit more talked about in mainstream. So who grew up around men who were freaked out every time you mentioned anything about menstruation? Even women. It's ridiculous. It's something that happens to us women that there's so much shame and stigma around. What are we doing to educate the next generation about these natural women's cycles? These cycles that literally bring every human to life is so taboo still. It's something that we actually talk about quite openly with my boys and my girl, and I think it's a really important conversation to normalize it because it's normal. That's what I'm going to say about that. All right, girl code. When you see another woman and you're inclined to give her the side eye, like, look her up and down, stop. You've reached the judgment zone. When we judge another woman, put her down, we are shaming something in ourselves. What does her actions mirror in you? We've all been guilty of it, judging another woman about the choices she makes in clothing, food, men, friends, sexuality, single, posting about her relationship online, in another relationship, out of another relationship, bragging about her victories, crying about a breakup, another selfie on the gram, you name it, we frickin' judge. Judgment comes from guilt and shame. Even if you have never acted on it, it triggers something in you that you need to work on. Shame and guilt isolate. So placing judgment on another is an act of trying to isolate them from a tribe. Now, what happened back in the day when you isolated someone from a tribe? They ended up dying. It divides. And a tribe that is divided falls. Sorry, chat. But us women, we need to have each other's backs. We've not had the easiest herstory. We need to stick together. And Herstory is an incredible book by Jane Harding Collins. And I'm pretty sure I put a link to it on my website. Amazing. It's like 45-minute read. It's incredible. We haven't had an easy herstory. So picking each other apart is the worst thing that we could do. When you get in a place of judgment, observe. Isn't it interesting how many times I say observe and not judge? Because when we observe, we hold space for learning and seeing something that we would not normally see if we go straight to judgment. Catch yourself out. Choose to send love to her, to you. And observe what it is that has triggered that judgment. Where did that come from? What have you suppressed? There's some shadow work to do there. Story time. Okay. At 4 years old, I was sexually assaulted by a 12-year-old friend of the family. It sparked in me a sensation my body had never felt before, obviously. So I began touching myself, which was very discouraged. I grew up in a really strict religion that was like, you do not masturbate, no sex before marriage, huge shame around any sexuality. Which led me to, I actually then stopped touching under my clothes and started touching on top of my clothes. Ridiculous. What my young brain was thinking, I don't know. So when I turned 8, it was so shamed out. It was actually shamed out of me well before then. But when I was 8, I had this experience where a photo of me touching myself on top of my clothes was actually put in a public place in my house, my family's house. And we'd had everyone over, my grandparents, my aunties and uncles, cousins, everyone from church over. It was my baptism day. And this photo was out, and it was where everyone saw it. Everyone walked through the hallway where all the photos were. And I realized it on that day, and I had so much shame. I never touched myself again until after I was married at 20 years old. And even during my marriage, I was scared to touch myself. So that's a lot of information. But it goes to show just how deep a level of shame people can create around this. So it's been a lot of relearning, a lot of reprogramming consciously, and unconditioning. And it's still a work in progress, but it's also a really fun work in progress. Like, let's be honest. What I needed at that time was a conversation, an explanation. Instead of you can't touch yourself because God's going to think you're bad. You're going to go to hell if you touch yourself. It's something that is shamed. You explain, okay, do that in private. You don't do it out for other people to see. Because as a kid, they just see their bodies as their bodies, and it's like, well, hang on, I've got fingers, that can be seen, but is that part not? Can you see what, like, an explanation about the social etiquette might have helped? And what can we give to our next generation? Less shame, more openness, conversation, explanation. I wanted to point out, I also didn't say anything about the incident when I was 4, the abuse when I was 4, until I was 15. Why? I was 15 when I said something. Because I would hear victim shaming everywhere. It was almost as though girls were held responsible for boys' thoughts and actions and arousal. As though boys were animals that couldn't contain their appetites. They couldn't control their actions. That degrades everyone. When we say things like, why didn't she just leave? for domestic violence people who have gone through domestic violence. That's victim shaming. Be cautious what you say around people, what you think, question your thoughts. Saying things like, well, she shouldn't have had so much to drink. She shouldn't have worn that skirt. I mean, that shirt was showing her boobs. It was showing a lot of boobs. Or she shouldn't have walked alone through that park. Or why did she stay? This is perpetuating victim shaming. At the end of the day, it's the perpetrator. Rape, 100% of sexual assault is caused by the perpetrator, not the victim. Why don't we ask, why did he keep hitting her? Instead of, why didn't she leave? That way, there's going to be a whole lot less shame about our sexuality. Seems fair. Wow, that got heavy. But it's an important conversation. All right. It's so easy to get pulled back into our brains. It's literally, we try and figure everything out intellectually. We try and work through it, and that takes us out of our bodies. So it's so important to get into our bodies every day. So let's take a second right now. Just move your body, just shake a little bit. Make sounds. When we make sounds, we literally get into the different heart centers, the chakras of our body. Each chakra has a different sound. But this part is one that I'm excited to bring to you. Our bodies need to move. If it doesn't feel good to move our bodies, it's because we've made them numb. And if we haven't been moving them in the right way, if our body's hurt or in pain, that's like the first subject that I did in kinesiology is like, our bodies should feel good to be moved. But most of the time, we're lazy, we don't feel like moving, we don't feel like working out or anything like that. That's usually because we're hiding different feelings in them, quite honestly. We're avoiding feelings, so we try and keep our body still so that we don't feel. Now, I'm not here to tell you the right way to move your body. That's up to you. But I am going to suggest there's a way that you can start to reconnect with your body really, really quickly. And it's one that women have been using for thousands of years. Dance. Yeah. You've probably seen people doing these ecstatic dances on Instagram and you're like, oh, that's so daggy, I am cringing so hard right now. But in actual fact, there's medicine in that. Oh my goodness, you're cringing? Haha, honey, you need to do it. For thousands of years, our ancestors have used dance to connect and ground themselves into their bodies, into their heart and womb centers. So, if you are feeling embarrassed and daggy and all the rest of it, be alone so that you can move freely. You'll probably feel really daggy when you first start. But this is something that is incredible for changing your mood, for changing your emotional state, for getting you into your body. You probably need to do it whenever you're feeling like you do not want to do it. When you are sitting down trying to force any kind of work and then it's just not working and you need to have creativity and draw on a lot of those different parts of yourself that you've really become quite static to, that's when it'll pop into your mind and then you're going to get really annoyed and you're just like, ah. You're going to see my face vibing out to some music. You're going to go, dang it, I got to do that. And you're going to know it feels better. And I encourage you to do it. Think about it. Every cell in your body is moving and vibrating in a static motion. And we're here just chilling on our butts, sitting down, stationary, sedentary, because we don't want to be weirdos enjoying Don't take this too seriously. Like, this isn't something you can get right or wrong. Laugh at yourself. Play with it. Oh my God, universe is play. You can't make a wrong move. You can't do something that looks ridiculous. This is literally self-expression. It doesn't need, there's no such thing as perfect here. It will not be perfect. You do it great if you move. Just move. Just do it. Don't think. It's not a thinking thing. It's definitely not a thinking thing. It's not a strategic thing. You just get up, you put music on, you move. Light a candle. If you are at home doing this, oh my goodness, light a candle. Make it all so delicious. You want to put on some nice music, like something with a beat. And then start to listen to how your body wants to move. Just don't judge it and go with it. It's the ultimate surrender. Remove your shoes. You can be naked. You could be naked or wearing something sexy. Be in lingerie if you want to. It's not about anyone else. It's about you and how you feel. And getting into that sexuality, into our sexuality, dropping into our bodies, we create life with our bodies. Imagine what else you can start to create for yourself when you start feeling into those creative centers, right? When you start taking away all the parameters of what things should look like and you surrender to the beat of your heart, to the beat of a drum, to the beat of your own music, your own rhythm, what will that start to create in you? What confidence will you start to harbor? Like, oh my God, it's like incredible energy that is right there for you, right there. So put on some music with a beat. Beats are timeless. There was a drum. I swear it was probably the first instrument. I don't know. I'm making that up, but it sounds right. Just move your body. How does each limb want to move? No one is around to judge you. You make sounds, you make faces, you do whatever your body wants because it needs self-expression. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if you are looking for music that is amazing to vibe out to for this ecstatic dance, you can head over to YouTube, onto my channel, subscribe to Wild Woman Free. There is a playlist there called FILWS, Falling in Love with Self. And you can add, I've made that collaborative, so you can actually add your own music to it. We can enjoy that as a tribe. Like, hey, this is the one that I vibe out to. And then we have exposure to different music types and we might as well play with that. How rad is that? So I've already got some music in there. I think it's the first one on there. It's called Energy by Sampa the Great. Oh my goodness. It's so earthy and grounding and beautiful, and the beat is rich, and you just really want to move your hips. Really think about how your body moves, where your curves are, where you just want to just drink in all the energy of life. So there's a playlist if you're feeling stuck for the music. I've even hooked you up with that, man. That's rad. Did you miss the big D? Here we are, talking about bodies, loving ourselves, sexuality, treating ourselves with love, and not one word about the D. Obviously, I'm talking about diets. I'm not about to bag out anyone's eating preferences or push any agenda besides one: intention. When you choose to eat something, consider, observe what your intention is around eating it. If you're choosing to set a set way of eating, is it from a place of love or a place of control? Are you trying to make your body submit, or are you trying to fuel it with love? Are you showing your body you don't trust it? When you get to a place of loving yourself, what you choose to fuel your body with will change. And how your body responds to that food will also change. It's not all about the D, but the D is important. How would you eat if you fully loved yourself? Biohacking, just a heads up, biohacking, basically we cannot get everything we need from a nutritional point of view from the food that we consume. I mean, modern day science, thank you, has made it so that things grow faster and in bigger quantities, but aren't necessarily as nutritious. And you might need more information on supplements and things that are better for your bodies, and what your body is lacking and that sort of thing. But I do think our bodies are pretty good at figuring out what we need. It's usually our mind that wins in that department. Usually it's our mind that's hungry or needs comfort or needs something, and our bodies, and it's usually fueled from what we think we should eat or how we think we should look. And there's so many other components to what we crave. But when you start to really check in and come from a place of love, then what you eat will change. And you're going to realize when your body's not acting optimally, and then you're going to find more information of any supplements that you might need to help your body work in an optimal way. Homework. All right. Print out your workbook and complete it before day 3, which has to do, sorry, I've got it all written up over on this butcher's paper I've like drawn, and so beautiful. Day 3 is all about combining our spirit and all of it together into ourself. Such a beautiful one to wind up the course. Go through the ritual of gratitude for her. Play with embodied and ecstatic dance. Go onto the playlist, listen to some music, add your own. Some of the music there might be a bit sweary, but I love it. There are some that I just love. So just a heads up. And for those of you who want the hashtag tag Wild Woman Free, add a photo of yourself onto Instagram or take a selfie of you moving and enjoying your body in any way. It can be someone did snowboarding, you can do skiing, you can do surfing, you can do yoga, however you love to move your body. Just post it on social and explain how you enjoy moving your body and why it feels so good. Tag me in it. Make sure you use hashtag falling in love with self, FILWS. And I look forward to seeing you guys in day 3. Much love. Hang on. I should do a stop share. Hang on. I look forward to seeing you in day 3. Mwah. See ya.